She hurled her wedding band straight at my chest and declared she wasn't my wife that night. I stood frozen in our Capitol Hill flat, watching the gold circle ricochet off the wooden floor, and a strange numbness settled deep inside me. She snatched her bag, banged the door shut, and her heels echoed down the corridor as though she were stepping into total liberation. Most men would have freaked out, bombarded her with messages, or stayed awake hoping for a remorseful return. I retrieved the ring, placed it on the kitchen counter beneath the bright light, and snapped 3 pictures from various sides. Then I created a fresh folder on my phone titled Proof. Here's something marriage rarely teaches you. The instant a partner discards the emblem of your union and proclaims their independence. They've basically given you the whole argument. I was 29 at the time. We'd been wed for 4 years, and I believed I understood what security felt like. We connected during university, got engaged early, embraced that Capitol Hill young professional lifestyle with the brick-exposed flat, and our Sunday trips to the farmer's market. I handled project coordination at a tech firm. She handled marketing for a downtown startup. Our existence appeared flawless on social media. Cozy pasta dinners, lazy podcast mornings. The sort of couple friends labeled relationship goals underneath posts. But roughly 8 weeks earlier, subtle changes began that I couldn't fully pinpoint. She spent more evenings away, usually with coworkers she called girlfriends, returning past midnight reeking of liquor and cigarette haze from clubs. I've never been possessive, so I avoided making an issue of it. When I inquired about her evenings, she offered curt replies and headed directly to wash up. Her phone now required a code I wasn't privy to. She erased conversations openly in my presence, no longer bothering to conceal it. I convinced myself this was temporary. Perhaps she craved breathing room, that relationships go through phases, and this was merely a difficult stretch. In hindsight, I ask myself, how many warning signs must pile up before a person quits rationalizing them? I had been mistaken. That Friday evening, I prepared supper as always. Creamy carbonara, toasted garlic bread, the full spread. 7 rolled around, no message. 8 arrived, still silence. I ate solo, stored her portion in the refrigerator, and put on some easy Netflix to pass the time. She entered at 7:12. I know the precise moment because I checked my watch at the sound of the door. She wasn't wobbling from alcohol. She was stone-cold sober, and that unnerved me more. She gazed at me as though I were an unfamiliar face, someone she was reluctantly sharing quarters with. I offered to warm her meal, and she let out a laugh, not warm but cutting. I'm only 27, she said, tossing her bag onto the sofa, yet I'm trapped living like someone twice my age. I'm exhausted from this domestic charade. I'm done faking that this satisfies me. I'm sick of you treating us like some flawless pair while I sense myself fading away. I remained composed, inquired what she truly meant, suggested we discuss her emotions openly. She interrupted, insisting no discussion was necessary, rejecting another of my calm, logical problem-solving talks. Then came the moment. She tugged off her wedding band, dangled it between us as proof of my supposed wrongdoing, and uttered the phrase etched in my memory. This band represents my vanishing act. She flung it forcefully toward my chest. It struck and dropped. The clink against the floor rang louder than anything before. I'm single this evening, she announced, seizing her bag once more, warning me not to stay awake, not to phone, not to interfere. And she departed. I remained motionless for perhaps 10 minutes, eyes fixed on the closed door. No rage surged, no sorrow overwhelmed. Instead, an odd sharpness emerged, as if every shadow in the room had suddenly vanished under bright illumination. She had openly stated, before our home, before her own decisions, before everything, that she viewed herself as unattached, not taking a break, not seeking distance, single. I lifted the ring and, rather than tucking it away fondly, set it on the counter like an item collected from a scene. Then I acted as any sensible person would in 2024. I began recording every detail. I launched my notes application and logged the sequence of events. Her arrival time, her precise statements as accurately as I recalled, the act of tossing the ring, her exit following the claim of being single. I reviewed our mobile account, enabled call recording settings allowed in my jurisdiction, and confirmed cloud backups were running. Next, I dialed her number, directly to voicemail. After 20 minutes, another attempt, voicemail again. On the fifth call, roughly 9:30, she answered. Background noise flooded through, pounding bass, voices yelling above the music, men chuckling nearby. She shouted to know my reason for calling. I asked her location and whether she felt secure. She chuckled and replied she was enjoying herself at a nightclub, an experience I supposedly couldn't grasp. A male voice murmured something indistinct nearby. She giggled once more, repeated she wasn't my wife that night, and declared she would do as she pleased with whomever she chose. Then the line went dead. I preserved the call history, captured a screenshot, stored copies securely. I settled onto the sofa and simply exhaled. This wasn't merely an argument. This wasn't a temporary slump. This represented her solo choice to demolish our marriage, and she had furnished her own proof. Around 10:15, my phone vibrated. A picture arrived. She posed at a rooftop lounge, positioned between two unfamiliar men, one arm draped around one, beverage in hand, beaming widely. The text beneath read, "Bet you wish you knew how to have fun." I studied that image for ages, not purely from pain, though it stung, but because I understood she had voluntarily supplied all I required. I captured screenshots, duplicated them across multiple secure locations, and set up an email folder stamped with dates and times. I sent no reply, offered no reaction. Gave her nothing she could later twist. I simply archived it. By 11 o'clock, I sat at the kitchen table, laptop open, searching for divorce lawyers in Washington, D.C. I located one with strong feedback, experienced in contentious matters, known for swift action. At 11:58, I rang his after-hours contact. He answered promptly on the third attempt, sounding fully awake, and I summarized briefly. I explained my wife had flung her wedding ring at me, proclaimed herself single, departed, forwarded a picture with other men, and stated she would act freely. I mentioned possessing audio, images, and timed records of it all. Silence followed. Then he uttered words that eased every muscle. She basically handed you the winning argument. He instructed me to preserve every item, avoid reaching out unless she initiated, and arrive at his office Monday at 8 sharp. I ended the call realizing fear had vanished. I was simply finished. She assumed this would serve as temporary discipline, that she could indulge her carefree single life and return to find me waiting, contrite for my dullness. But by the time she returned, proceedings would already be underway. That night I slept more soundly than in the previous 2 months. For the first time in ages, my path felt clear. This segment revealed he refused to pursue or plead. He collected evidence. Those 8 weeks of warning signs weren't fleeting. They formed a build-up to this breaking point. When a partner openly claims single status and supplies visual confirmation, that isn't accidental. It's deliberate. She returned Sunday morning anticipating dialogue, unaware the process had begun. I heard her key turn in the lock near 10:30. Her bag hit the floor in the entry, her steps hesitate upon spotting me at the kitchen table with coffee and laptop. She appeared worn out, mascara streaked, hair disheveled, still in Friday's outfit. She attempted a sheepish grin as though we'd merely quarreled over chores. She asked softly if we might discuss things. I met her gaze and suggested she open her email. Confusion crossed her face, then she checked her phone. I observed her features shift as she read. Eyes widening, lips parting. She stared at me as if I'd ignited the place. She thrust her phone forward, demanding what this meant, accusing me of initiating divorce. I sipped my coffee calmly and recalled how she discarded her ring and proclaimed herself single. I had merely accepted her declaration at face value. She began pacing, hands trembling, insisting it was only one evening, that fury had clouded her judgment. I remained steady, noting she'd forwarded an image with 2 men plus a taunting caption, and on a recorded call stated she'd act freely with anyone. She halted, tone turning accusatory, questioning whether I'd taped her, labeling it manipulative, claiming this proved her need for freedom. I shook my head, clarifying the distinction between protection through records and domination. She switched tactics, sat opposite, extended her hand. I withdrew mine. She admitted fault, explained feeling confined and lashing out, but insisted she loved me and wished to salvage things. I studied her closely and felt complete emptiness. I told her this wasn't mere lashing out. She had chosen repeatedly. discarding the symbol, claiming independence, spending time with other men, supplying evidence. Her sobs intensified. She questioned whether one poor choice erased years together, whether I refused even to attempt repair. I rose, emptied my remaining coffee down the drain, and asked who had truly discarded those years. "You threw the ring," I replied. Saturday at 8, I had consulted the lawyer. His name was Richard, mid-50s, crisp attire, the type who rearranged weekends when urgency appeared. I presented it all. Ring photos on the floor, timed records, audio clip, texted image, quoted statements. He arranged everything on his desk as though preparing courtroom exhibits, which he essentially was. He declared the material strong, pointing to her self-sent photo, noting she had publicly claimed single status and recorded her conduct herself. He inquired about finances. I detailed them. The lease stood solely in my name. I'd covered the full deposit and all bills from the start. Joint accounts existed, but I earned the majority. She brought in roughly 60% of my income. No children, no major joint assets beyond typical household items and furniture. He noted everything, then explained the filing would occur electronically Monday morning to stay ahead before she organized a response. By Saturday afternoon, the foundation was laid. A peculiar peace settled over me, like I was finally acting rather than merely enduring. Sunday afternoon, after her arrival, tears, shouts, and every tactic, I laid out facts. The lease belonged to me alone. She needed to gather her belongings. She gaped as though I spoke a foreign tongue, asking where she should go. I shrugged, reminding her she had craved freedom and single life. She protested, claiming entitlements, insisting I couldn't evict her. I displayed the lease agreement on screen, my name only, plus records proving my sole payments for deposit and utilities. I suggested friends, her sister, whatever worked, but she could not remain. She unleashed every insult imaginable, branded me heartless, accused me of vengeance, declared I was unrecognizable from the man she wed. I waited silently until her words ran dry. Then I voiced what had crystallized since Friday evening. The husband you knew would have stayed awake, granted forgiveness, allowed himself to be trampled. That version no longer exists. She gathered 2 suitcases amid tears, slamming cabinets and muttering, "I de-rue the day." The moment she exited, I reset the entry code, emailed the building supervisor about the circumstances, and spent Sunday removing our wedding pictures. Every frame, every snapshot of smiles on beaches or at gatherings, I boxed them and stored them away. The flat seemed larger, fresher, as though air flowed freely again. Monday morning, Richard submitted the petition digitally via DC courts. By afternoon, it entered the record. Wednesday morning, she received service at her workplace. I learned this when her sister phoned, furious about the public humiliation. I replied evenly that my soon-to-be ex should reach my counsel, then disconnected. I blocked her sister, her mother, everyone on her side likely to launch guilt efforts. My phone erupted for an hour, unknown numbers texting warnings of my error, rashness, preaching forgiveness in marriage. I erased them all. Ever observe how those untouched by your circumstances hold the firmest views on your choices? Around 4 that Wednesday, she appeared in my building lobby. The desk attendant rang, asking if he should allow her up. I declined, requested he inform her I was unavailable, yet I descended anyway, knowing she'd linger until heard. She waited near the elevators, clearly prepared, hair styled, makeup flawless in the dress I once favored. Spotting me, her face brightened as though victory neared. She approached, pleading for merely 5 minutes. Arms folded, I told her to speak. She inhaled deeply, visibly gathering thoughts, searching for words to sway me. She admitted being awful, acknowledged it fully, but insisted it amounted to one foolish night while I prepared to discard everything. I stood firm, explaining it wasn't isolated. One night capped 8 weeks of withdrawal, erased chats, late returns, then formalizing it all. She reached again. I stepped away. She confessed fear of losing me, solitude, ruining her greatest treasure, and now tears flowed genuinely. For a moment something flickered inside me, only a flicker. "You cannot lob an explosive, then demand the fragments reassembled," I replied. She wept openly, questioning whether 4 years vanished so easily. I confirmed exactly so. I returned upstairs. She remained below. From my window, I watched her linger in the lobby another 10 minutes before exiting to hail a ride. One final text arrived. "You'll regret this." I deleted and blocked her contact, then sat in silence. The flat stayed quiet, truly quiet, and for the first time in months the stillness felt liberating, not oppressive. It belonged to me alone. Thursday, Richard phoned. She had retained counsel and sought spousal maintenance plus half the residence's worth. I expected as much and inquired about her chances. He chuckled she could request, but our records showed voluntary departure, her single status claim, leased solely mine with my exclusive payments. Preliminary hearing in 6 weeks, prepare for her victim portrayal. I assured him I was prepared because I was. She believed she could shatter the marriage Friday, revel all weekend, return tearfully apologetic and watch me yield. She overlooked one detail. I'm the person who keeps thorough records. This segment illustrated her desire for chaos without repercussions. I delivered consequences instead. Regret surfaced only upon discovering choices carry weight. Family guilt trips, lobby theatrics, cruelty accusations, all aimed to revise events and evade accountability. The initial hearing occurred Thursday morning, 6 weeks post-filing. I arrived suited, Richard at my side, thick folder of hard copies. Judges still favor tangible pages. She entered 10 minutes delayed with her lawyer, a younger man appearing eager to escape. Conservative attire, light makeup, hair neat, the classic aggrieved spouse look. We sat apart. She avoided eye contact, murmuring to counsel while dabbing tears. The judge, woman in her 50s, direct demeanor, moved swiftly through basics. Her lawyer rose first, portraying me as detached and hasty, divorce after one dispute, evicting her without options, rejecting every reconciliation effort. He framed it as my abandonment. Richard countered, presenting proof methodically. Ring photos on floor, club call audio of her single declaration, texted image with men and mocking caption. Her counsel objected, recording lacked consent, but Richard cited DC's one-party rule. The judge examined the photo extensively, then questioned my wife directly about sending it. She nodded faintly, admitting yes, but blamed intoxication and anger. The judge probed her intent behind claiming single status and spending time with other men. My wife wept, describing feeling stifled, needing freedom, calling it a grave error. The judge appeared weary, not moved. She asked me directly about reconciliation hopes. None, I answered. Trust shattered so thoroughly cannot mend. Temporary rulings followed. I retained the residence. Accounts frozen until division. No interim support until final. One mandatory mediation session before trial. Her side pushed for temporary aid, citing homelessness. Richard noted voluntary exit after single claim plus nearby relatives. The judge agreed with our position. Outside, my wife attempted contact. Richard intervened, reminding her attorney's only communication. Over his shoulder, she asked if I truly felt nothing. I offered no reply, simply left. The following week, she launched subtle online posts. Heartbreak, surprise betrayal, true natures revealed. Friends piled supportive comments, labeling me harshly. I ignored captured screenshots forwarded to Richard if needed. My own circle inquired. I summarized. Ring thrown, single claimed, other men, proof sent, divorce filed. Most nodded knowingly. Several had noticed her gradual withdrawal, distant at events, phone glued. One friend confessed spotting her weeks earlier at a bar, cozy with some guy while I supposedly worked late. I wished for earlier disclosure but grasped his reluctance. No one enjoys delivering bad news. Mediation arrived 3 weeks post-hearing, Monday afternoon, downtown conference room. Attendees me Richard her counsel, seasoned mediator. She outlined goals, cheaper, quicker resolution sans trial. Her side opened with requests. Half residence appreciation since marriage, half my retirement growth during union, coverage of her relocation and initial rent. Richard presented my counter. $15,000 lump sum, approximating her shared expense input, plus full waiver of future claims. Her lawyer deemed it insufficient. Richard emphasized abandonment, no claim on premarital lease, extensive behavioral proof. Mediator called break, her counsel let her out. Richard advised firmness, they bluffed, aware of weak position. Upon return, my wife requested direct talk. Mediator permitted with attorney consent. Both sides agreed. She gazed across, voice unsteady. Any possibility? Any at all to salvage us? I had anticipated this, yet hearing it felt surreal. I regarded the woman I'd shared 4 years and future dreams with. She now seemed entirely foreign. No, I stated evenly. She shut her eyes as though struck. Reopening them showed fury replacing grief. I hate you, she declared loudly enough to unsettle the mediator, hating me for surrendering, for iciness, for zero effort. I stayed silent until she finished. Fine, I replied, this simplifies matters. Her lawyer touched her arm, murmured. She sat back, breathing heavily. Mediator offered another pause. I declined, eager to conclude. Her counsel huddled, returned with $25,000 plus my fee coverage. Richard glanced. I refused. Our ceiling was set. This exceeded. Richard restated $15,000 final accept or face trial with full evidence public. That shifted the mood. They stepped out again, returned looking resigned. She accepted. Papers signed on spot, mediator attested, settlement complete. Divorce final in 60 days per DC rule, but division resolved. I issued $15,000 check. She signed full release, separation official. Packing up, she paused at the door, glanced back silently. No words, just a long look, perhaps memorizing me or grasping our journey's end. Then gone. Richard clasped my hand, praised flawless handling. Most men buckle under emotional pressure. I thanked him, settled final fees, stepped into sunlight feeling unburdened after months. 60 days passed, court email arrived, marriage dissolved. At my desk, I stared at the notice briefly. Years concluded in a digital file. Forwarded for archives, resumed tasks. That weekend, I reorganized the entire flat, shifted furniture, new bedding, fresh artwork. I needed it to reflect me alone, not a shrine to what ended. I resumed jogging, something halted post-marriage at her urging about excess time. Took a solo Portland getaway, no itinerary. 3 months later came a promotion I'd aimed for but distraction blocked. Life gradually felt authentic again, lived, not staged. Friends inquired about dating. I replied not yet, needing space to rediscover myself beyond husband role. Truthfully, I missed stability's concept, partnership's notion, not her personally. That realization confirmed my decision's rightness. This account demonstrates respect and trust form a relationship's bedrock. When actions reveal disregard for shared life, accepting that truth and acting isn't harsh, it's dignity. Keeping records wasn't vengeance, it shielded against narrative distortion. What are your thoughts on this account? Share below, like if it resonated, and subscribe for additional true life tales.